Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Six Path Weeb, and today we're diving into another exciting chapter of our fanfiction series. In this video, we continue the story with What If Naruko Became Deku's Quirk? Part 2. If you enjoyed the first part, get ready because the plot gets deeper, the stakes get higher, and the connection between Naruko and Izuku begins to reveal even more unexpected possibilities. Before we begin, a quick disclaimer. The content on this channel is created for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage used in my videos. All rights and credits go to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, with that out of the way, let's continue the story. The warm sunlight of the morning filled the Midoriya home with a gentle glow. The kitchen smelled of freshly chopped vegetables and simmering soup, and the soft sound of humming floated through the air. Inko Midoriya was happily preparing lunch for the small gathering she had planned. She moved around the kitchen with care, placing ingredients neatly on the counter. Today felt special. Izuku had gone through so much recently, and she wanted this day to be calm and joyful for him. She had even let him sleep in a little longer than usual. As she sliced vegetables for the salad, the doorbell suddenly rang. "Coming," Inko called out cheerfully. She wiped her hands on a towel and hurried to the door. When she opened it, she immediately broke into a bright smile. Standing there was her longtime friend Mitsuki, carrying several large bags. "Mitsuki," Inko exclaimed, pulling her into a warm hug. Mitsuki laughed and hugged her back, though the bags made it a little awkward. "How are you?" Inko asked as she stepped aside to let her friend enter. "And how is Katsumi? Didn't she come with you?" "I'm fine, and Katsumi is fine too," Mitsuki replied as she set the bags down near the couch. "But she decided to go to school today. She said she wasn't going to stay home just because of yesterday." Inko raised an eyebrow slightly. Mitsuki shrugged with a small grin. Her exact words were that she wasn't going to pussy out. "I honestly wonder where she learns words like that." Inko gave her a flat look. Mitsuki coughed lightly. "Anyway, she'll come by later. Masaru will too after he finishes some work." Inko nodded and returned to the kitchen while Mitsuki sat comfortably on the couch. "You know," Mitsuki said suddenly, looking over at her friend, "you really should start going to the gym." Inko paused for a moment while holding a knife over the cutting board. She thought about it carefully. "You know what?" she said thoughtfully. "Maybe I should." Mitsuki blinked in surprise. "Oh, don't look so shocked," Inko said with a small laugh. "I was thinking about it before. And now that Izuku is getting his quirk soon, and Hisashi is coming to visit in 7 months, it might be nice to get into better shape." "Hisashi is coming back?" Mitsuki asked with surprise. "Is he finally returning home for good?" Inko snorted softly. "As if," she replied. "His boss still has him under contract for another year. But he is coming home for a month-long vacation." Mitsuki crossed her arms. "You know, I never liked his boss." "No one does," Inko said simply. She continued preparing lunch while Mitsuki relaxed nearby. After a moment, Mitsuki spoke again, her tone becoming more serious. "And Inko, we really need to do something about that doctor." Inko stopped cutting vegetables for a brief moment. Then she slowly continued slicing the cabbage in front of her. "Oh, we will," she said quietly. Her grip tightened slightly around the knife as she chopped. "He has a lot to answer for." Mitsuki watched as Inko firmly pressed the knife down into the cabbage. Sometimes she forgot that beneath Inko's gentle and kind personality was someone who could be very strong when protecting the people she loved. Just then, a familiar voice echoed from the hallway. "Hey Mom." Both women looked up. Izuku had just walked into the room, rubbing his eyes slightly from sleep. When he noticed Mitsuki sitting on the couch, he tilted his head in confusion. "Aunt Mitsuki?" "Hey there, Izuku," Mitsuki greeted warmly. "How are you feeling?" "I'm doing well, thank you for asking," Izuku replied politely before asking, "How is Kaken?" "Oh, she's doing fine," Mitsuki said with a small smile. Then her expression softened. "And Izuku?" "Thank you." Izuku blinked in surprise. "For helping her yesterday," Mitsuki continued gently. "It meant a lot to me." Izuku smiled modestly. "She's my friend, Aunt Mitsuki. Of course I would help her." Mitsuki nodded and wiped the corner of her eye. Then she suddenly remembered something. "Oh. That reminds me." She picked up one of the bags she had brought with her. "Last night we also heard that you finally discovered your quirk." Apparently a certain doctor made a big mistake. Both Inko and Mitsuki frowned at the thought, while Izuku looked a little uncomfortable remembering it. So Masaru and I brought you a small gift, Mitsuki said, handing him the bag. A congratulations present. Izuku looked surprised. You didn't have to do that, and Mitsuki, he said politely. Nonsense. Mitsuki waved her hand. Go ahead and open it. Inko leaned over slightly. You don't even know what it is, do you? She asked with amusement. Mitsuki scratched the back of her head. Actually, no, she admitted. Katsumi and Masaru picked it out. Izuku's eyes widened. Katsumi chose it? Yep, Mitsuki nodded quickly. But don't tell her I told you that. She wanted it to be a surprise. Izuku smiled softly. That does sound like her. Tell me about it, Mitsuki chuckled. Now come on, open it. I'm curious too. Izuku carefully pulled the wrapped box from the bag. He slowly removed the wrapping paper and opened the lid. Inside was a neatly folded shirt. Izuku gently lifted it out. His eyes widened in amazement. It's an All Might Golden Age limited edition t-shirt. Mitsuki leaned forward to look. Wow. Even Inko stepped closer, surprised. Isn't that one of those shirts made in very small numbers? She asked. Mitsuki nodded proudly. Yep. Izuku stared at the shirt with shining eyes. But neither he nor the others noticed that somewhere far away, something unusual was happening. In a distant forest clearing, a swirl of golden light appeared for just a moment. From that glowing light stepped a young girl with bright golden hair tied into playful twin ponytails. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity and energy. Her name was Naruko. She looked around the unfamiliar world with wonder. Wow, she whispered to herself. Then she smiled brightly. This place looks like it could be fun. And with that cheerful thought, Naruko began walking forward, ready for whatever adventure waited for her next. Inko held her son tightly, her shoulders shaking as she cried. Izuku. Why did you not tell me about that? She asked between sobs. Izuku looked very small in his mother's arms. He scratched the back of his head nervously and spoke in a quiet voice. I didn't want to worry you, Mom, he said. Everything happened so fast. And I didn't really understand what was going on myself. Inko pulled back just enough to look at him, her eyes still watery but full of love. You silly child, she said softly. Of course I would worry. That's what mothers do. Mitsuki crossed her arms and looked down at Izuku with a firm but not unkind expression. You should have told us right away, she said. But at least everyone is safe now. Detective Naomasa Tsukuchi nodded calmly. That is correct, he said. We are simply here to understand what happened and make sure everything is properly recorded. Recovery girl gently tapped her cane on the floor. My, she said kindly. There's no need for everyone to look so serious. Young people discovering their abilities is something wonderful. Izuku's eyes sparkled with excitement as he looked at her. You really think so? He asked eagerly. Recovery girl chuckled. Of course. Every ability is like a seed. With the right care, it can grow into something amazing. Yagi Toshinori, who had introduced himself as All Might's secretary, cleared his throat politely. That is exactly why we came, he explained. Young Midoriya may have awakened his ability later than most children. It happens sometimes. We simply want Recovery Girl to check on him and make sure he is healthy. Inko wiped her tears and nodded. If it's for Izuku's health, then please go ahead, she said. Recovery Girl stepped closer and looked up at the boy with warm eyes. Now then, she said. Why don't you tell me exactly how it felt when your ability appeared? Izuku straightened up and began talking quickly, his excitement returning. Well, it felt like energy rushing through me. Like my whole body suddenly woke up. I didn't even know what to do with it. The adults listened carefully. Mitsuki raised an eyebrow. Sounds like he's been thinking about heroes again, she muttered. Yagi smiled faintly. Heroes are good inspirations for children, he said. Just then, a cheerful voice spoke from the hallway. Did someone say heroes? Everyone turned toward the doorway. Standing there was a bright-eyed girl with golden hair tied into playful twin tails. She wore a comfortable orange jacket and had a big, curious smile on her face. This was Naruko. Naruko stepped inside with energetic confidence, her eyes shining with excitement. Hi everyone, she said happily. I heard something interesting was happening here. Izuku blinked in surprise. Naruko, You're here too? Naruko placed her hands on her hips proudly. Of course I am, she said. Whenever something amazing is happening, I want to know about it. Recovery Girl smiled warmly at the girl. Well, she said. You must be Naruko. I've heard that you're quite the spirited young lady. Naruko grinned. That's me, she replied. And someday I'm going to be a great hero who helps everyone. The room suddenly felt lighter. Even Inko laughed softly. Detective Tsukuchi adjusted his hat with a small smile. It seems we have many enthusiastic young people here today. Naruko looked at Izuku with bright determination. So, Izuku, she said, I heard you discovered something new about yourself. Izuku nodded shyly. Naruko gave him a big thumbs up. That's awesome. We'll both keep working hard and become amazing heroes someday. Recovery Girl tapped her cane again, smiling at the hopeful scene. Yes, she said kindly. With hearts like yours, the future will surely be bright. And in that cozy apartment, filled with laughter and encouragement, the adults and children began talking together about dreams, abilities, and all the wonderful possibilities that tomorrow might bring. Mitsuki Bakugo crossed her arms and leaned back slightly, her expression calm but firm. I'm here because my daughter is Izuku's friend, she said. Naruko Uzumaki. She spends so much time here that this house might as well be her second home. At the mention of Naruko, the room seemed to brighten just a little. Naruko was well known in the neighborhood for her cheerful spirit, bright laugh, and her habit of encouraging everyone she met. She had golden hair that shone like sunlight and an energy that filled every room she entered. Now Masa Tsukuchi nodded thoughtfully. I see. Thank you for explaining. Just then, soft footsteps came from the hallway. Izuku returned, holding a thin folder carefully with both hands. I found it, Mom. He handed the papers to Inko, who immediately passed them to the detective. Now Masa opened the folder and began reading through the medical report. The room grew quiet while he studied the pages. Recovery Girl adjusted her glasses and glanced over his shoulder. Very interesting. Yagi, still in his smaller form, watched with patient curiosity. Now Masa closed the folder after a moment. This is exactly what we needed. Thank you. Izuku sat down on the couch again, clutching his notebook. Even though he had been through so much in a single day, his curiosity was still shining brightly. Does this mean you can investigate the hospital now? It will certainly help, now Masa replied kindly. But investigations take time. We have to be careful and make sure everything is done properly. Inko gently placed a hand on Izuku's shoulder. The important thing is that you're safe. Just then, the front door suddenly slid open. A bright voice called from the entryway. Hello. I brought snacks. Everyone in the room turned. Naruko Uzumaki stepped inside with a large bag of treats balanced in her arms. Her bright blue eyes sparkled with excitement, and her warm smile immediately lifted the mood of the entire house. I heard something big happen today, she said happily. So I thought everyone might need some cheering up. Mitsuki sighed, though a small smile appeared on her face. Naruko, you always arrive at the noisiest moments. Naruko laughed and set the snacks on the table. That's because quiet moments are boring. She noticed the serious expressions in the room and tilted her head. Oh. Did I interrupt something important? Now Masa chuckled softly. Not at all. In fact, you might have arrived at the perfect time. Naruko blinked in surprise. Really? Izuku nodded eagerly. Yeah. The detective is helping us investigate something important. Naruko's eyes widened with interest. She quickly pulled out a chair and sat down, leaning forward with curiosity. Then I'm listening. Her enthusiasm caused even Recovery Girl to smile. Now Masa folded his hands calmly. Well, since you're here, perhaps it would be helpful for everyone to hear the same explanation. Naruko raised her hand like a student in class. Yes? Now Masa asked. She grinned brightly. Before that, can everyone take a snack? Important conversations are always better with snacks. The room grew quiet for a moment. Then, unexpectedly, Yagi laughed. And just like that, the heavy atmosphere in the room lifted. While the detective prepared to continue his explanation, Naruko happily passed around snacks to everyone, humming a cheerful tune. Sometimes, even during serious moments, a little kindness and warmth could make all the difference. And Naruko Uzumaki had a special talent for bringing that warmth wherever she went. Mitsuki folded her arms and spoke in a calm but firm voice. She is my best friend, she said, giving the detective a serious look. And her son helped my daughter yesterday. The three visitors blinked in surprise. The girl who got stuck in that huge puddle of sticky muck at the park. That was your daughter? No, Masa asked carefully. Mitsuki lifted an eyebrow. Isn't that exactly what I just said? Oh, right. I'm sorry about yesterday, ma'am, no, Masa replied quickly. Mitsuki waved her hand as if brushing the apology away. Relax. It wasn't anyone's fault. Sometimes things just happen. What matters is that everyone is safe. Toshinori Yagi, who most people knew as All Might, watched her with quiet surprise. Many people only talked about successes and happy endings, but Mitsuki spoke honestly about how people were human and could make mistakes. That little incident could have turned into a much bigger mess if people hadn't helped each other, Mitsuki added. Her serious expression softened after a moment. Just then, everyone heard footsteps in the hallway. Heads turned as Izuku walked in holding a folder. I found the reports, Mom, he said. He handed the papers to Inko. She checked that everything was there before passing them to Detective Nomasa. The detective flipped through the pages, but his expression slowly became puzzled. The file was very thin. Recovery Girl adjusted her glasses and leaned closer. When she looked through the pages herself, her calm face quickly changed from confusion to shock. And finally to outrage. What is this? She exclaimed. This is barely a medical report at all. Everyone in the room blinked. Recovery Girl handed the papers to Yagi, who looked just as surprised. Mrs. Midoriya, Recovery Girl said, turning back to Inko. Are you certain this is everything the doctor gave you? Yes, Inko answered, worried now. Is something wrong? Recovery Girl sighed. It seems the doctor only did a simple X-ray and didn't perform the usual tests. Without those, we can't properly understand your child's special ability. Izuku looked down at her shoes, thoughtful but curious. Recovery Girl softened her voice. With your permission, I would like to run some proper tests. Nothing scary, just safe examinations so we can learn more about her unique gift. Inko looked uncertain for a moment. Letting her child go somewhere unfamiliar always made her nervous. But she also knew how much Izuku wanted to understand her abilities. Finally, she nodded. All right. Recovery Girl smiled kindly. Wonderful. Yagi and I will take her to the clinic and bring her back this evening. She turned to Izuku. Bring your bag, young lady. Today we might learn something exciting about your ability. Izuku's eyes brightened immediately. She hurried to grab her backpack. Just as she reached the door, another cheerful voice echoed from outside. Hey! Are you leaving already? Everyone turned to see a girl with bright golden hair tied in two playful ponytails. She grinned widely as she stepped inside. This was Naruko. Naruko Uzumaki was known around the neighborhood for her sunny personality, endless energy, and her habit of turning every ordinary day into an adventure. She heard what happened yesterday and came to check on everyone, Mitsuki explained. Naruko placed her hands on her hips proudly. I brought snacks. Investigations and science stuff work better with snacks. Even Recovery Girl chuckled. Well, that is surprisingly good advice. Naruko then turned to Izuku with sparkling eyes. So you're going to learn about your ability today? That's awesome. I'll be cheering for you. Izuku smiled, feeling much braver now. Thanks, Naruko. As Izuku left with Recovery Girl and Yagi, Inko watched from the doorway. Her heart was still full of worry, but also hope. Inside the house, Detective Nomasa prepared his notebook. Meanwhile outside, Naruko waved enthusiastically as the group headed down the street. Good luck. She called. Discover something amazing. And with Naruko's cheerful voice echoing behind them, Izuku set off toward a day that might reveal something wonderful about her future. Izuku's eyes sparkled as he stood in front of the tall building. This is a hero agency, he whispered in amazement. From the outside, the building looked fairly ordinary. It was an 8-story skyscraper with the symbols of two well-known heroes displayed near the top. Still, to Izuku, it felt like the most exciting place in the world. So we are going to test my quirk here? Izuku asked eagerly. Yes, young Midoriya, said Mr. Toshinori in his smaller form, smiling gently. Recovery Girl was invited here so we could safely learn more about your quirk. Recovery Girl tapped her cane lightly on the ground and walked toward the entrance. Izuku and Mr. Toshinori followed behind her, carrying her bag. As they entered the building, Izuku remembered a question that had been floating in his mind all morning. Mr. Toshinori, he said. Both Mr. Toshinori and Recovery Girl looked at him. Why do some people say that the vigilante called Drago and the others were true heroes? The elevator doors slid open, and the three of them stepped inside. Mr. Toshinori leaned gently against the wall as the elevator began to rise. Why the sudden curiosity about vigilantes, young Midoriya? He asked with a playful smile. You're not planning to become one, are you? What? No. Never, Izuku said quickly, shaking his head. I want to be a hero. It's just. Detective Tsukuchi once said they were true heroes. But vigilantes are supposed to be troublemakers, right? Mr. Toshinori nodded thoughtfully. You are correct that many people see them that way, he said. But some stories are more complicated than they seem. Izuku leaned forward with interest. About 30 years ago, Mr. Toshinori continued, people in the city of Hasu began hearing about someone called Nightmare. The name sounded scary, so many people assumed this person must be a villain. But the truth was different, Recovery Girl added calmly. Instead of causing trouble, Mr. Toshinori said, Nightmare helped people. Lost children were guided home. Broken streets were quietly repaired. People who were in danger were safely guided away. Izuku blinked. Really? Mr. Toshinori nodded. A few years later, another mysterious helper appeared in Kamino Ward. This one called herself Drago. Izuku tilted his head. Herself? Yes, said Mr. Toshinori with a warm smile. Drago's real name was never known, but people who saw her said she was a cheerful girl with bright energy. She protected people quietly and never asked for praise. Recovery Girl chuckled softly. Children who met her gave her a nickname, she said. What nickname? Izuku asked. They called her Naruko. Izuku's eyes widened. Naruko? Mr. Toshinori nodded. Yes. Naruko always helped with a big smile. If a bridge railing was broken, she fixed it. If someone dropped their groceries, she picked them up. If people were scared during storms, she would guide them somewhere safe. She sounds amazing, Izuku said. She was, Mr. Toshinori replied. Naruko believed that being a hero meant helping people feel safe and happy. She never cared about fame. In fact, whenever people tried to thank her, she would laugh and run off before anyone could ask questions. Recovery Girl smiled. And she had a wonderful habit of encouraging children, she said. She would tell them that anyone with a kind heart could grow into a hero. Izuku's notebook was already out. So people thought she was a myth? He asked while scribbling. For a long time, Mr. Toshinori said. Sometimes she would appear to help, and then she would disappear again. But every time she appeared, someone had been helped. Izuku looked thoughtful. So Detective Tsukuchi called them true heroes because they helped people? Mr. Toshinori nodded. Exactly. A hero is someone who helps others, protects hope, and inspires kindness. Naruko did all those things. The elevator chimed as it reached their floor. The doors opened. Izuku stepped out, still thinking about the story. A girl named Naruko who helped people just because she wanted to, he said quietly. Mr. Toshinori smiled at him. Yes, he said. And stories like hers remind us that the heart of a hero is not fame or titles. Recovery Girl tapped her cane and pointed down the hallway. It's kindness. Izuku closed his notebook and smiled. I hope I can become a hero like that one day. Mr. Toshinori laughed warmly. With your determination, young Midoriya, he said, I believe you just might. Mount Lady folded her arms and looked from one person to another, clearly puzzled. What do you mean? She asked again. Death Arms scratched the back of his head as if trying to decide the best way to explain it. Well, he began slowly, most people have never actually seen them. They appear, help people, leave the criminals for the police, and then disappear before anyone can ask questions. No interviews, no cameras, nothing. So to the public they sound like legends. Kamui Woods nodded in agreement. But among heroes, he added calmly, some of us have seen the results of their work. Perfectly tied criminals, detailed notes about what happened, and sometimes even advice about how to improve patrol routes. Izuku's eyes sparkled with amazement. They even give advice? He asked. Yes, Kamui Woods replied with a small smile. And surprisingly good advice too. Mount Lady tilted her head thoughtfully. That's actually kind of impressive, she admitted. At that moment, Recovery Girl finished adjusting the equipment and waved Izuku over. You can continue your story time later, she said. Right now we need to check this young man properly. Izuku quickly walked over, a little nervous but also curious. All right, dear, Recovery Girl said gently. Just stand here and relax. While the machine hummed softly, the heroes continued talking nearby. Yagi Toshinori glanced at Izuku with a thoughtful expression. You know, he said quietly, the world has seen many kinds of heroes. Kamui Woods raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Yagi smiled faintly. Some heroes shine brightly where everyone can see them, he said. And some help others quietly from the shadows. Mount Lady nodded slowly. I guess both are important. Just then the machine beeped, and Recovery Girl examined the results. Well now, she murmured with interest. Everyone leaned a little closer. What is it? Izuku asked nervously. Recovery Girl turned toward him with a kind smile. It seems your body is quite special after all, she said. Izuku blinked in surprise. Oh really? Yes, she said. Very special. The room filled with curiosity, but before anyone could ask more questions, the gym door slid open again. A cheerful voice echoed through the room. Wow! This place is huge. Everyone turned toward the entrance. Standing there was a girl with bright golden hair tied in playful pigtails. Her blue eyes sparkled with excitement as she looked around at all the training equipment. She wore an orange jacket and had a wide, friendly grin on her face. Sorry, she said quickly, waving both hands. I might be a little lost. The heroes stared in surprise. The girl placed her hands on her hips confidently. My name's Naruko, she announced proudly. And I'm looking for the hero training gym. Izuku blinked. You found it, he said. Naruko's grin grew even bigger. Awesome. She rushed forward eagerly, examining everything in the room like an explorer discovering treasure. Whoa! Are you all heroes? She asked excitedly. Mount Lady chuckled. Yes, we are. Naruko's eyes sparkled even brighter. That's amazing, she said. I want to become a hero too someday. Someone who helps everyone and makes people smile. Her cheerful energy quickly filled the entire room. Even Yagi couldn't help but smile. Naruko stood proudly in the middle of the gym, looking at each hero with determination. Don't worry, she said confidently. I'm going to train really hard. One day I'll be a hero everyone can count on. Izuku felt something warm and inspiring in her words. He smiled back at her. I think you will, he said. Naruko laughed happily. Believe it. And just like that, the gym that had been filled with serious conversations moments before now felt brighter, as if a small burst of sunshine had walked through the door. The bright training room hummed softly with quiet conversation. Several heroes stood nearby as Recovery Girl finished checking the equipment laid out on a small table. Very strange, Kamui Woods said thoughtfully. No one knows who those 6 vigilantes really are, where they come from or where they go afterward. He folded his arms. I once met one who called himself Acre. Odd name. I tried to catch him, but, he sighed. Let me guess, Recovery Girl replied calmly while preparing her stethoscope. He made you look foolish. He wasn't paying attention to what the vigilante was holding, Death Arms added. Mount Lady leaned forward curiously. What was he holding? A propane cylinder and a lighter, Death Arms said plainly. Kamui Woods rubbed the back of his head while Mount Lady stared at him in disbelief. Really? Really, Death Arms replied. He ended up rolling on the ground trying to put out the flames on his costume. Mount Lady shook her head. That must have been quite a sight. Oh, it was, Death Arms said with a chuckle. The vigilante even recorded it so she could tease him later. Recovery Girl cleared her throat. That story can wait. First, we need to complete the quirk examination. Everyone's attention turned to the young girl standing nearby, Izuku Midoriya. She adjusted her posture nervously as Recovery Girl began writing notes. The test started simply. Recovery Girl asked many questions, checked Izuku's heartbeat, and even tapped her lightly on the head whenever she began mumbling excitedly to herself. Izuku ran across the room, drank water, ate a small snack, and even had a tiny blood sample taken. Finally, they reached the most important part. Now, Recovery Girl said, looking at her over the rim of her glasses, use your quirk so I can document it properly and give it a name. Izuku froze. Several seconds passed. Recovery Girl frowned. What are you waiting for? An invitation? Oh, yes, ma'am, Izuku said quickly. But she still stood there. Recovery girl tapped her foot impatiently. I would very much like to see it today. Right. It's just. Izuku hesitated while the heroes leaned closer to hear her answer. How does someone actually use her quirk? The room fell completely silent. Mount Lady blinked twice. Death Arms scratched his chin. Recovery girl slowly lowered her clipboard. What do you mean? She asked carefully. You don't know how to use your quirk? Izuku smiled sheepishly. Well. Both times it happened because I really needed it. I didn't actually activate it on purpose. Recovery girl sighed and rubbed her forehead. Alright. Try concentrating on how you felt during those moments. Izuku nodded and closed her eyes. Everyone waited. 1 minute passed. Then 2. Izuku opened her eyes again. Nothing. Nothing, Recovery girl confirmed while looking over her notes. From the corner of the room, Yagi spoke up. If I may suggest something. I remember advice once given by a great hero about using a quirk. Izuku's eyes lit up. Really? Mount Lady leaned forward. Let's hear it. Recovery girl sighed again but listened anyway. Yagi nodded seriously. The advice was, when using your quirk, clench your butt tightly and shout smash. With all your strength. The room went quiet again. Death Arms blinked. Are you sure that was the advice? Yes, Yagi said confidently. Izuku thought about it carefully. Well. If a great hero said it. Then it must be good advice. Mount Lady shrugged. I suppose it's worth trying. Izuku took a deep breath. Then she clenched. She clenched as hard as she could. She focused with all her heart, putting every bit of determination into the effort. Her face scrunched up with concentration while the others watched awkwardly, unsure whether to laugh or encourage her. Just as she was about to give up, a deep rumbling voice echoed in her mind. What are you doing? Izuku jumped in surprise and excitement. It worked, she said happily. I can hear that voice again. The voice rumbled again, sounding both powerful and annoyed. Explain yourself. I was trying to figure out how to use you, Izuku said brightly. For a moment, the air in the room grew heavy, as though an invisible wind had filled the space. You wish to use me? The voice said. No one uses me. I am the mighty QB. The pressure in the room grew stronger. Papers fluttered on the table and the heroes stumbled slightly. Inside her mind, Izuku quickly spoke again. Oh. I didn't mean it like that. The pressure eased a little. Then speak clearly, the voice replied. We were trying to understand my quirk, Izuku explained. And I thought maybe you were part of it. The voice gave a thoughtful rumble. I am not your quirk. Izuku blinked in surprise. But you helped me save someone before. What I gave you was only a small boost, the voice explained. Your true ability was already there. I merely added a little strength when you needed it. Izuku thought carefully. Then. What is my quirk? Your quirk, the voice said, is something called chakra. Recovery girl quickly wrote the word down on her clipboard. Chakra? Izuku repeated. Yes, the voice replied. And I exist because I am made from that very energy. Izuku's eyes sparkled with curiosity. So my quirk lets me use chakra. And you're part of it? The voice gave a low rumbling sound that almost sounded like a laugh. Something like that. Just then, Izuku felt another presence nearby, warm, bright, and cheerful. A second voice appeared, gentle and energetic. Hey there. The new voice said happily. Looks like she finally figured out how to talk with us. Izuku gasped in surprise. Who are you? I'm Naruko, the voice replied warmly. And don't worry, I'm here to help. Inside Izuku's mind, a cheerful girl with bright eyes and a wide smile appeared. She waved excitedly. Naruko stretched her arms and grinned. From now on, we'll figure out this chakra thing together, she said. It'll be fun. Izuku couldn't help smiling. For the first time, using her mysterious quirk didn't feel confusing anymore. It felt like the beginning of a wonderful adventure. Izuku could hardly believe it. Just yesterday he had discovered that he finally had a quirk, and now it even had a name. His heart felt light with excitement. He turned toward Recovery Girl, who was watching him carefully. Ask the voice what it does, she instructed calmly. Izuku nodded and closed his eyes for a moment, focusing on the strange presence he could feel deep inside his mind. Hello. Excuse me, Izuku began politely. He wasn't sure how to address a voice in his head, but he tried his best. After a moment, he heard a low, Thoughtful sound, almost like a quiet growl. I just wanted to ask what this energy is, Izuku continued, and what it does, besides the strong pressure I feel. There was a pause before the voice answered. Chakra, the voice explained, is the combination of your physical energy and your spiritual energy. When those two work together, they become a special kind of power. With chakra, you can strengthen your body, move faster, and even learn unique techniques. Some people learn to balance their chakra so well that they can walk on walls or across water. Izuku's eyes widened with amazement. Recovery Girl noticed his surprised expression and gently encouraged him. Tell us what the voice said. Izuku quickly repeated the explanation to everyone in the room. The pressure you feel, the voice continued in his mind, is something people sometimes call presence or intent. It simply means that others can sense strong energy around you. When Izuku shared that part aloud, several of the heroes listening nearby looked surprised. All Might's eyebrows rose in curiosity. Recovery Girl, however, narrowed her eyes thoughtfully, as if she had heard something similar before. Izuku thought carefully for a moment before asking another question. How do I use chakra? All Might, now in his smaller form, gave him an encouraging nod as if to say it was a good question. Inside Izuku's mind, the voice answered simply. Learn it. Izuku blinked. That's it? He said in confusion. Will you teach me? There was another pause. No. Izuku nearly toppled over in shock. What? He exclaimed, jumping back to his feet. But why not? The voice sounded calm but firm. Because I don't feel like training someone who hasn't even tried yet. Izuku opened his mouth to argue, but the voice continued. However, I am willing to make a deal. That made Izuku pause. If you manage to release your chakra on your own, without my help, the voice said, I will teach you one technique. Izuku straightened with determination. His eyes shone with resolve. Okay. I'll do it, he said confidently. And then you'll teach me. At that moment, Recovery Girl spoke again. Ask what happens if you overuse your quirk, she said, her sharp gaze suggesting she suspected something important. Izuku repeated the question inside his mind. The answer came immediately. If you overuse it, you could lose too much energy. Izuku waited nervously for the rest of the explanation. Chakra comes from your body and spirit working together, the voice continued. That energy helps people live, think, and move. If someone uses too much of it without resting, they may become very tired and fall asleep for a long time while their body recovers. Izuku swallowed. So I have to be careful? He asked. Yes, the voice replied. Use it wisely and allow yourself to rest. Energy always returns when it is used with balance. That answer made the room grow quiet as Izuku repeated it aloud. Recovery Girl nodded slowly. That matches what I expected. Izuku looked at her with surprise. You knew? Something like this, she replied kindly. You're not the first person to have a quirk connected to energy like this. I've met a few people whose abilities worked in a similar way. All Might stepped forward and placed a reassuring hand on Izuku's shoulder. Young Midoriya, he said warmly, this simply means you must train patiently and learn how your power works. With care and practice, you can grow stronger every day. Izuku smiled, feeling hopeful again. Inside his mind, the voice grew quieter as it prepared to rest. My name is Naruko, the voice said gently. And remember, Izuku. The greatest strength comes from learning step by step. Izuku blinked in surprise. Naruko. The name echoed in his mind like the beginning of a brand new adventure. And somewhere deep within his chakra, Naruko, bright, curious, and full of energy, smiled as she drifted into a peaceful rest, waiting to see how far Izuku's determination would carry him. Dear YouTube family. That's all for now. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss what comes next. Thank you for watching. Regards. 6 Path Weeb.